You're watching the Fantasy Rankings Report only on Fantasy Now Plus.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Rankings Report, where we compare running backs and wide receivers from 6 different websites. And my name is Michael Flores. Normally you see Topher here introducing everyone, but Topher's out this week. But luckily we got Brian back for another week. Brian, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We'll see how this goes. Looks like we're not done on the injury train yet. I got a couple guys to talk about doing that now again.
Oh yeah, injuries have been brutal this year. It seems like every year they get worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like
Which,
throughout all sports we're getting a lot of like Achilles injuries, which is crazy, but it is what
yeah,
it is at this point.
definitely.
But cool. I just want to let you guys know that this show is brought to you by Fantasy Now Plus and the Finns Talk Sports Network. And we'd like you to subscribe to both channels, links in the description. Also, we're sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Play $5, get $100 right now in bonus funds by using the promo code FN Plus. And for the viewers watching, we have it right below too. So please go ahead and take care of that for us. And just as always, we start with our ranking questions of the day. In this segment, Topher and I typically ask each other questions about rankings in any way, shape, or form. We stick to our areas of expertise or talk about a different position. Now, this is typically Topher's week to go ahead and ask a question, but Brian, I see you're going to be tasked with it.
Yeah. I think I got a good one. I don't know if you've already peeked at the answers, but I'm quite curious to see if what you think on this one. How different do you think the top five rookie running backs so far by their average draft position compared to their year-to-date fantasy stats are?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I see your top 5 guys. I didn't take a look at the year to date. I'm trying to not cheat as much as possible. But yeah,
Yeah,
you had going into the season, we had a little bit of a change up, huh?
yeah. So yeah, the ADP you had, obviously GNT. And he was RB6 on at ADP. Hampton RB14, Henderson RB18, Harvey RB22, and Johnson RB28. So of those five, how many of them do you think are still top five
Let's
rookies?
see. I'm gonna go Jainty, maybe Henderson. Unfortunately, Hampton's injured, so that's not going well. Harvey has looked on and off. I'm hoping he's top 5 still. If not, he's got to be just outside of it. And honestly, I wouldn't even say Johnson's anywhere near close.
Right. Yeah. All right. So who do you think are the top five?
I'm
You
gonna
don't have to do
go.
them in order.
I'm gonna go. Jainty's probably 1. Cam has to be close to there, maybe right around 5 because of his injury. He might have dropped down a little bit. Um, if Harvey's not top 5, I kind of want to go him top 5. If he's not, he's got to be about 6, 7. Other than that, the only real guys I've gotten some playing time, Henderson lately, but I'm not sure he cracks the top 5. He's had a pretty rough start. And then Quinshon Judkins has to be up there.
You got the top five. Those are the
Oh,
five.
perfect. I promise
um,
I did not cheat.
so yeah, GNT one was ADP, and also he's year to date number one. Scat is still currently 2, which says a lot about how impactful he was before he got hurt. Judkins is 3. Harvey is 4, which he was 4 on ADP and 4 on rookie running back year to date. That one I was probably the most surprised by. Not that he's not playing well, just I didn't think he was, 4. A little surprised. And then Henderson was 5. So yeah, Caleb Johnson, he doesn't even exist in this year. He, they tried at the beginning. He had a one bad game, and they decided he's never to play again.
Yeah, that
So,
sounds about right.
but yeah.
But
So yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say we got Vivi Mochito coming on, just saying what's good, guys. So what's up, man? Thanks for joining.
Absolutely.
Then he's asking also if we give any trading advice. Yeah, send them
Abs-
through. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say absolutely. We love to give trading advice.
And here it goes. It came right in. Someone offered to give him Troy Franklin and Theo Johnson for Zach Ertz and Jordan Addison. Brian, what do you think?
think I like it actually because Ertz, while he's good, he's not as good with Mariota. And Theo is even without, Dart, he's had a pretty good year. I think with Winston coming in, I don't, I think Theo'll still get his because Winston's going to throw that ball. And, and I take Franklin over Addison for certain this year. Um, Addison's best games were with Wentz. We'll see if he gets the chemistry with JJ, but I mean, do you want to wait on that when you got the sure thing right now with Franklin? So I'd take the Franklin Johnson side.
Yeah, I agree. And Jamie, always on. Love to always see him here. He's saying Topher looks a little different tonight. Yeah, little change of scenery for him, I guess.
Yeah, I had a makeover.
Yeah, and also if you guys have not had a chance to look at the video this morning, that our start and sit segment that Fantasy Now Plus had, we had a little of a surprise with Jamie jumping on or submitting his song on his, and we played it on his behalf, and I mean it was pretty good. I kind of like it.
I did too.
But we're going to get into our first part of the show. It's our steady and save segment. This is the part of the show where we each highlight 3 players in our position of expertise that the consensus actually agrees on. This doesn't necessarily need to be who we think is a safe and steady, but what the consensus says, this is the guy you should go with. For my first guy, I'm going to go with Travis Etienne Jr. He's not really a guy I've talked about too much this year, but he's actually had been pretty solid year. He's coming into the week at RB17. He's got a range of 5. And before week 8, 3 consecutive okay fantasy games, but then came back next 2 weeks, 16.5, 15.7 fantasy points. Not bad. I'm going to take that regularly. Up next, he's got the Chargers. They're about middle of the pack as far as rushing yards allowed come in. They're allowing about 106 a game. Etienne's only 2 years removed from having a great fantasy season. So I'm hoping that little small resurgence that he's had the past 2 games is going to go ahead and come to fruition again this year. But he's going to be my first guy for steady and safe.
Okay. Yeah. I like Etienne. I think they made the move with Bigsby, and Allen's not really getting much touches. The receivers are hurt. I think he's going to continue to be, a focal part of that offense. So I think it's a steady and safe. I think it hits him right on the coffin for what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, if you would like to go for your first steady and safe guy, who you got?
I'm going to butcher the name, I'm sure. Olamide, I believe it's pronounced Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus, yep.
Zacchaeus, see, I told you I was going to butcher it. Wide receiver 43, range of 4 though. So, I mean, he's pretty consistent in that range. Obviously, with bye weeks and injuries, there's a good chance that, he's a fringe, flex position player this week that you really want to look at. Injuries, I mean, that's why he's on the football field. So I do think I don't know how long he's been in the league, but it feels like he's been in the league for a long time. And I should have looked up that year, how many years, but I don't know how many times when he gets an opportunity though. He's much like DeJuan Jennings used to be until he finally broke through. He puts up numbers when he has a chance. So I think he's a good steady and safe.
Yeah, I like it. And I do think that he's had a pretty good year with Chicago so far. One bad week, really, in my opinion. That was this past week. But I feel like a lot of the receivers were dropping balls anyway. So it is what it is. But yeah, I do like him week in, week out typically.
And today, Odunze and Moore, neither one practiced. So something to keep in mind on. He could have a much bigger role this week.
Absolutely. Love it. My next steady and safe guy, I'm going Woody Marks. I like Woody Marks, even though he's not your starter in Houston, but he looks a lot better than Chubb. This week, he's starting the week off at RB23. He's got a range of 6, and he's actually coming off the highest snap count of the season. He actually had an 80% snap count this past week, which that's starter territory right there. That's his best week since week 4 when they went up against the Titans. That week he had 69 rushing yards, nice, 1 touchdown, and then 4 receptions on 5 targets for 50 yards, and then added another touchdown there. Now, Who's he playing next? Tennessee again. I'm hoping to get another 2 touchdown game out of him. I like him. I like him this week. I mean, you got to like everybody against Tennessee, to be honest. But
Right.
yeah, I'm going Woody this week for another steady and safe guy.
Yeah, I'm a big Woody Marks fan. I drafted a lot of shares of him in dynasty leagues for that late round pick, with hoping that he might be the guy once Mixon was gone. Then they signed Chubb, and then Mixon got hurt. And I'm like, oh, he's still got a chance. And I think his ascensions came a little sooner than even I would have anticipated. But as the snap count increases, I don't think that I think it's more of a matter of when, not if, he becomes a starter for the rest of the year. And like you said, Tennessee's a great matchup. He already smashed his best match first time he played him. So yeah, I really like Woody Marks this week. My second one was DK Metcalf, wide receiver 20 with a range of 4. And to me, just when you say DK Metcalf, wide receiver 20, it just seems like, why so low? I think a lot of this is due to the performance we all saw this past week with the Steelers. I mean, that Sunday night game was one that, bravo to you if you stayed up and watched the whole thing, but most of us probably fell asleep. But DK is definitely Aaron Rodgers' favorite target. The last time they played the Bengals, it was just an absolute shootout. Why won't it be again? I mean, it's not like the Bengals suddenly got a defense. So, and I think the Steelers are going to be pretty motivated. The division's getting a little tighter. I look for DK to rebound with a big game. So I like him a lot.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, feel like DK is one of those guys you always feel like, well, you got to start him because it's DK. But
Yeah.
this week is going to be a good week for him to really ball out.
Yeah, I
My,
agree.
my next guy, I'm going Aaron Jones Sr. It's RB21 on the week, range of 5. Another guy that's coming off his highest snap count of the season. He was in 71% of the snaps. It's really only his 5th game this season. 3 of them started. But he got his 2nd touchdown of the season this past week, but it was his first rushing touchdown. Ended up finishing as the RB12, had 15.9 fantasy points. It's his best week since week 1, where he had his only other touchdown, a receiving touchdown, but another touchdown nonetheless. And he finished with 15.7 points that week. That game against the Bears. Guess who he plays again this week? Happening against the Bears again. Now, Chicago's winning, which is great, but offenses have looked pretty good against them. They're allowing 135.3 rushing yards a game and 31.9 receiving yards to running backs per game. Now, this is going to be interesting. Besides it being a rivalry game, that first week the Bears had that in the bag and then completely fell apart in the fourth. Made JJ McCarthy look like a stud. This is a game that the Bears are going to have to come out and really put a stop to every aspect. But I'm looking at Aaron Jones to probably do some damage again.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Aaron Jones is the best running back on that team. I think a lot of us thought Jordan Mason was going to be taking that role, especially with the injury. And I mean, as soon as Aaron Jones is working his way back in, he's clearly showing it's still his job. And he's good in the passing game too, which only obviously benefits even more. And with that defense, I do think it'll be more of a shootout because Minnesota's defense isn't what they were a year ago. So I think Aaron Jones will be involved very, very heavily in this game plan as well.
Oh.
All right. My next one, and I think there's a typo on my paper, so I was trying to double check it, but it says Troy Franklin, wide receiver 53, range of 5. I don't think there's any way that Troy Franklin's wide receiver 53 this week. So I was trying to double check that yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of those rankings look absolutely crazy. I talk about it.
38.
Okay.
No, 35. Sorry. Yeah. Ranked 35. He had the 5 and the 3 were backwards, typo. I was like, there's no way he's 53. It's a good. I just talked about trade for him. If he was wide receiver 53, then one of my, 35, range of 5. The range was right. Just the 5 and the 3 were mixed up. So Troy Franklin, though, I'm a big Troy Franklin fan. I think that he has became almost the 1A to Cortland Sutton in the last few weeks. He's been the main target. And they got that college chemistry, and now that Franklin's kind of figuring out how to play the NFL game, I think it's just the ascension's going to continue.
Yeah, awesome. I like that, and I love how we can always segue into that. I feel like every week we get a question that comes in, and one of us has a guy to talk about that week. So that's perfect. We do have a few more questions popping in. Sergio, thanks for joining. He's got a flex option that he needs to use, and his 4 options are Henderson, Swift, Debo, and Shakir. That's an interesting one. I kind of personally like Swift here, but what are you thinking?
We've already got the confirmation that Ramondre is out this week. So for me, I think that makes me lean a little more Hendo. Now Swift though has been consistent, so I like that too. But I think Henderson knows this is his chance to take that job and run away with it. So I think he'll have another big game. I really do. Debo is, I think, the wild card. He's playing Miami, but I'm a Dolphins fan. In case you didn't notice any of the stuff behind me, this version of the Dolphins, 2 of the last 3 weeks, they look like what they were supposed to look like to begin the season. I mean, so I don't know what that means because the other week they look like the rest of the season. So which team shows up in Spain? Debo could have a big day. But I still think I would lean Henderson. Really, the order that it's listed is the order I would rank them: Henderson, Swift, Debo, here.
Accurate, yeah. Yeah, I like that. Awesome. Thanks for your question, Sergio. Got another one from Hunter. He wants to know if he should start Wandale this week. You kind of alluded to what that might look like with Winston now starting, but yeah, I'm not very convinced on Wandale, but you got wide receivers this week. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on who you have. I think he's definitely a fringe start depending on your depth. So not knowing who else your options are, it's hard to say. He's definitely not going to be one of your probably if you start 2 wide receivers in most cases. But if you're starting 3 wide receivers, there's a good chance he's going to fit the bill. Just Jameis Winston definitely makes it more fun, because someone's going to eat on
Yeah,
that team. It's just you don't know who yet, But I definitely like Wandell in a 3rd wide receiver spot.
awesome. And one last one before we get to our next segment. We got Force Calibration saying he's got Jonathan Taylor out and Montgomery as his 2nd running back. So who should he start? Kenneth Gainwell or Tajay Spears? Whew. That's a little rough. I might go Spears on the slight edge this week. Gainwell, I was just looking at him earlier. They're playing Cincinnati, which,
He had a good game
Cincinnati.
last time.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's not looking good. I mean, like you said, they're looking better, but that Cincinnati is still doing Cincinnati things. They're giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, I think Spears is the probably higher ceiling, and Gainwell's the higher floor. So I guess for me in that situation, I always look at my matchup. If I'm projected to win, I'm probably going to go with the safer option in Spears. If I'm projected to lose, I'm going to take the guy with the higher ceiling in Gainwell, and because I think it's both are hit or miss. So it really kind of depends on how I feel about my matchup this week on who I'd start.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good way to look at it. It's how far back are you in the projections? Or if you're ahead, yeah, take that safe route. I like it. So before we get to the meat of our segment, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what we use for our rankings. So we got if you look at the running backs right here, you see that we got everything listed out from RB1 tier, 2, 3, and so on. We take about 12 guys per tier. We take all 6 of the outlets that like to go and rank them. We take their average. We to get their range, the high, the low. We get the average pick that they're chosen at, and we run from it with that. And sometimes you get all over the place. As you can see, we have a range of 0 on our first top guys, but then you go to RB2 tier and RB 14 and 15 have an 11 and 10, and then it just gets crazier from there. At some points, we got like some 40s in there, some 50s. The lower down you go, the crazier the range gets. So normally we'll have Topher start this one off. So if you want to go ahead with your wide receiver ones here, you go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, yeah, the wide receiver one that I'm looking at this week is Zay Flowers. Wide receiver 11. He has a range of 7, 9 is a high, 16 is a low. And fantasy points per game though, he's wide receiver 30, which I thought was a little interesting. I actually thought he was higher. I know he's had some rough games without Lamar, but with Lamar, he's a whole different receiver. So, and they got the Browns this week, so I think he's a pretty safe wide receiver one play this week. Great matchup. Got Lamar back. The Ravens are definitely ascending the right direction, and it seems like when that happens, Zay Flowers is a big part of the game plan. And the fact that Derrick Henry doesn't look like Derrick Henry anymore, I think he's going to be featured. More and more become their 1A to the offense to Lamar. So I like Zay Flowers at the wide receiver one.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Lamar is back. They're on a solid 3-game winning streak, I believe.
Yeah.
Started off against the Bears, which I'm a big Bears fan. So not sure if you're aware of that. It's a rough situation to be in, but it's been a fun year so far.
I'm a Dolphins fan, so it's worse. So it's okay.
Yeah, so you kind of understand my pain.
Yeah. We've both been looking for a quarterback for way too long.
Yeah,
You might have yours. The jury's still out, but I think Caleb might be the guy.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a big Bears quarterback truther. Whoever we get, I fall in love with, and usually bites me in the butt. But hey, I'm all in on Caleb right now.
So you're a Justin
So
Fields fan.
you know what? I even drafted Justin Fields in a couple leagues this year because I figured, hey, he's gonna get some points for rushing, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't understand how Justin Fields has fallen as much as he has. It's crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, not that he was ever phenomenal, but 3 games with 55 passing yards or less is I don't even know how you do that being an NFL quarterback.
yeah, that's absolutely rough. That's what he finished, I think, this past week. They got the W somehow, but yeah,
The Browns.
yeah, exactly. So my first guy that I'm going in the RB1s here is a guy that I've been wanting to show up, and he hasn't had the year that I've been expecting, but that's Chase Brown. He's back into the RB1 tier for the week. Hopefully he's there to stay, but we'll see. He's listed as RB12, so he's right there on the fringe. Range of 8. They have him anywhere from 9 to 17 this week. Like I said, he started off a little rougher than expected, at least in my book. Now, his best finish to start was RB22 in weeks 1 and 6. His last 3 games, though, he's finished RB19 versus Pittsburgh, RB5 versus the Jets, RB6 versus Chicago. And all 3 of those games, he finished with at least 100 all-purpose yards, which is fantastic. Finally, it's just what we're expecting. But granted that one of those games against Pittsburgh, he had -8 receiving yards, still finished with 100 all-purpose yards, which I love because I have him in most of my leagues, and it's been a little rough seeing him go those first 6 or so weeks. He's getting Pittsburgh again this week. The last time against Pittsburgh was the only game where he actually surpassed 100 rushing yards. It actually took until week 4 for him to surpass 100 rushing yards on the season. So it was very, very rough to start. And like I said, this one's a little bit more personal for me because I have him in, I'm gonna go on a limb and say 4 leagues actually, which it's a little rough when that's your top running back and that's how he's performing to start the year. But I'm hoping, like I said with the other guys, this resurgence is real. My computer is absolutely freaking out right now. Sorry. It is going like all these screens are just popping up and going crazy right now. I don't know if you got a virus or what, but I'm hoping Chase Brown is back. I'm hoping that those last 3 games are the start of his great season that's going to end up happening now for the second half. But Chase Brown's my first guy that I'm going with RB1 the RB1 tier side.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Brown, I'm fortunate. I'm not like you. I've got very few shares. I felt like he was a little too high for my liking when in the fantasy drafts in most of them. So I didn't draft him. Ironically, I do have him in one league with good old Justin, and it's been very miserable in that league for having him. Him and Saquon have not been what they were supposed to be for me. But yeah, that Pittsburgh game, I'm really a little surprised. I know he didn't have the receiving yards, but that he was RB 19. I thought he was probably even higher because like I remember watching the game. I remember being excited he finally did something. So, and he has been better the last couple weeks since then too. So I agree. I think the Pittsburgh matchup's perfect for him. That's what got the train rolling. So hopefully it keeps rolling.
Yeah, for sure.
So next we go to the wide receiver 2 tier, and my wide receiver 2 tier I got is Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 23 this week. Here's the funnest range probably we're going to hear in a while. Range of 22 from 12 to 34. He's wide receiver 9 fantasy points per game. He's missed a couple weeks, but Justin Fields can't throw the ball, but somehow he manages to do okay when Garrett Wilson's on the field. So I think the 23 is pretty low for him because even though we all know what's going on, I can't imagine him not finishing in a wide receiver 20 range at the worst on when he's playing. So I thought that was a really fun one, 22 range, and it's not a Garrett Wilson factor, it's the Justin Fields factor. But I think even with Aaron Rodgers last year when he was bad, Garrett Wilson seems to be quarterback proof from fantasy production. He's going to still put up the numbers when he's playing. Trust him. He's shown it. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. He's getting his. So I like him at wide receiver 2 tier.
Yeah, for sure. And you're spot on. It's that 22 is the Justin Fields factor. You can't put up 54 passing yards when like 42 of them on one play came from your running back. It's a little rough out there for them.
Yeah.
But my next guy, RB2 tier, is a guy you briefly mentioned. That's Derrick Henry. He's at RB15. His range is nowhere near drastic as Garrett Wilson's, but he does have a range of 10, anywhere from 10 to 20. So some people have him as a right there, bottom of the end RB1 tier guy to the RB2. Now, week 1 was amazing. Finished as the RB1, had 169 rushing yards. Another guy that, what happened? Next 4 weeks combined was 148 rushing yards. Couldn't even match in 4 games what he did in week 1. And the next 4 games after that, his lowest amount of rushing yards was 71 versus Chicago, which Chicago is now seeming like they're the team. If you need some kind of resurgence or some kind of feel good about yourself, go play Chicago. You'll get your rushing yards versus them. Now, the one thing that really did help him out that game as well is he had 2 touchdowns against them, and he looked fantastic. And I'd love to have the old Derrick Henry back instead of having this old Derrick Henry, but I'm not really too sure that, the old Derrick Henry will be really coming back at this point in his career. I'm hoping so, but he faces Cleveland next. Now, Cleveland is an interesting team. They still have a top 10 rushing defense. Now, the last time he faced them, it was by far his worst week. So this might not be a week that you quickly turn to him and say, it's Derrick Henry, of course I'm starting him. This might be one of the weeks where if you have some viable running backs, you let kind of Derrick Henry sit on your bench. He ended up having only 23 rushing yards on 11 carries, no targets, which, don't get me wrong, that's not really part of his game. He's only had 13 on the year. But in that game against Cleveland, he only had 2.3 fantasy points in PPR. That's just outrageous how low that is. Like that has been happening to many big names this year. You mentioned Saquon earlier. He's had some really rough games. AJ Brown gave me a couple games where I think he's had 1-2 points. Like, it's happening with a lot of big names, but Derrick Henry is probably the one I feel like that hurts me the most because Derrick Henry has always been that unstoppable force, and it's just not happening this year. Now, this week's going to be like I mentioned, this week's going to be a little rough to want to start him. But then the following next 2 weeks, he gets to face the Jets and the Bengals. So while it may be a down week for him, I mean, I'm hoping that bounce back continues next week and after. But unfortunately for me, Derrick Henry is not a guy I really want to start this week.
Fair enough. I mean, we mentioned he's old, so maybe, just maybe, because he's getting a little older, his memory takes a little bit of time. So when the Browns defender came out and said he was easy to tackle right before week 2, and we all thought he was going to smash them, he's now going to remember that. Maybe it's coming back to him that he's supposed to smash them this week. So I mean, that's got to be the hope for Derrick Henry this week, is he's kept that receipt from week 2 when they proved to be right. Because if there's anything to motivate an NFL player, tell them that you're going to stop them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy because week 1, it's like, yeah, Derrick Henry's never going to age. And then week 2, it's like, oh, well, I guess the cliff happens. And I still don't want to believe it that the cliffs happened for him because of week 1. And it's crazy because we're now in week 11. But week 1 still gives me that glimmer of hope that Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry. So, yeah, I'm with you. A rough start, but in the running back too. I mean, I think if most people would start him as a second running back for sure. My next one in the wide receiver 3 tier is Romeo Doubs, wide receiver 28, range of 12, 21 to 32. I think that's probably actually pretty good range for him. Wide receiver 25 in fantasy points per game. I think everyone's kind of afraid of the Packers, receivers after last week's debacle. The Sunday night and Monday night games might be the 2 worst offensive games that we've ever had to endure back to back. For primetime games, it was not fun football. But he's definitely emerged as their wide receiver 1. Tucker Kraft's hurt. Jaden Reed's still hurt. I don't know if he'll play again this year. And then Golden's hurt. It's him and Watson, and Watson's looked good, but Watson's more of the deep guy. I mean, Wicks obviously seems to step up from time to time, but I think as a wide receiver 28, I think you're going to get the production there that you want as your wide receiver 3 tier from Doubs.
Yeah, absolutely. That Tucker Kraft injury. I'm a Bears fan. That helps us out a little bit, but fantasy wise, I was all in on Tucker Kraft, and before his injury, easily the best tight end out there right now, fantasy wise, just going off. But most of my leagues, I think I had Warren and Kraft. So yeah, I got a guy that I can easily play, but man, the tight end was losing number 1 tight end is rough.
Right, yeah.
Now, before I get into mine, I just want to remind you guys that we do have a special going on with Underdog. If you use the promo code FN Plus, play $5, get 100. Now, before this year, I never really used Underdog, but I started using it this year, and I really like the setup. I don't know if you've used it much, but they're actually pretty generous as well. There's a lot of boosts that are always happening. I actually ended up getting a $20 bonus play for the NBA this past week, and it worked out. So if you want to go ahead and get an extra $100 of bonus play to fit in this week, use promo code FN Plus when signing up, play your first $5, and you're good to go. Also, don't forget to join our Discord, link in the description. We've had a few questions on here that we were able to answer, we were able to get into. Now, if you're not able to get a question in here because you're watching a recording or you're listening on Spotify or anything, join the Discord. We'll be more than happy to talk about any of your questions on a future episode. So my guy on RB3 tier is Emari Demercado. He's at RB31. It's actually got a pretty nice little range being the RB3 tier. He's at 24 to 33, range of 9. He's been solid backup last 2 weeks, sharing about half the snaps with Bam Knight, 40 and 42% snap count the last 2 weeks respectively. Week 9 versus Dallas, 79 rushing yards, 14 attempts. Last week, 64 yards on only 4 carries. He had a huge 55-yard rush. Now, he gets to face San Francisco's defense next. Now, San Francisco's defense has been just all kinds of banged up. Now, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but looks like we might have lost Brian, unfortunately. But we'll have him back here in a second, and there he is.
That was weird. My wife's phone rang and her iPad is apparently somehow connected, and it took all my audio, and I could still see, but I couldn't hear you at all, and I didn't know if you could hear me, so I was trying to.
Oh, no, I did not, unfortunately, but glad you got it fixed out. Kind of heard some noise, but didn't really hear any talking. But yeah, I don't know.
Now
Technology
I know
has,
that, yeah, if her phone rings, it'll kick the iPad off. Good to know.
yeah, technology has been not on my side this week, if I'm being honest. I mean, my computer's freaking out as we're in here. But
yeah.
But in case you missed it, I was saying my next guy is Amari DiMercato. He was solid the past 2 weeks. They're facing San Francisco next, whose their defense is just all kinds of hurt. They currently have 7 guys on their defense that are on the IR. How they have a record they do now with all these injuries is amazing. Like it shouldn't be happening with everyone being hurt. And unfortunately for DiMercato, this might be one of the last weeks you could or even want to use him. Now, San Francisco's giving up about 133 rushing yards their last 3 games, and they're also giving up the 7th most receiving yards to running backs. This is going to be the chance to, if you have to put someone in because of bye weeks, you can probably flex DiMercato. But after this week, it's not looking too hot for him. Trey Benson is potentially coming back next week, and that running back room is going to get a little interesting. They still kind of have Michael Carter up there. They still have Bam Knight. There's DiMercato. With Benson coming back, you're going to lose one of them. I'm guessing it's going to be Carter. He's already been released and re-signed once. Bam Knight is taking more of the snap count away from him. But right now, Amari DiMercato is probably their most consistent guy. And like I said, if you have him and you need a flex guy, he could play your flex this week. But after this week, Trey Benson's probably coming back and taking that spot back away from him.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of hit all the nail on the coffin. I will say the San Francisco defense is kind of showing why Robert Saleh, gets a head coaching job. He's just a great coordinator. You plug and play. You go down. We'll just throw someone else in there because the scheme works. And but yeah, I do think DiMercato, if I had to start a Arizona running back, is the one to start. The last couple of weeks, he's definitely kind of taken that role more so. And probably the last week, like you said, because when Benson comes back, I don't think we're going to see much of the committee anymore. We still might, but the committee hasn't been great. They've all had their spots, whereas Benson and the limited time he did get to play this year and even last year, he showed he can be a workhorse. So, it was very limited chance to be a workhorse this year. But Connor goes down, he goes down the next week, right? But I do think they're going to give him every opportunity though when he comes in next week. So yeah, but for this week buys, there's a good chance that DiMercato could be a good fill-in. You were talking about underdog and playing it. I was about to answer that question, so I don't want to not answer because obviously they're a sponsor. I signed up actually using the promo code and love it. They give you those free plays. It's not just something that it says, because I know a lot of the different times you sign up for something, they offer a free play and then you got to do 25 other things. No, it was there. I got my free plays and made some money, for free. So you can't beat that. And also because it was free, I made some wild bets that didn't hit, but that's part of the fun of it. So but definitely, and I do like their platform a lot, and they seem to always have the profit boost and the different things. So if you haven't tried Underdog out, guys, it's definitely worth trying. All right, sorry. Now back to our regular schedule programming. My wide receiver 4-tier, Demario Pop Douglas, wide receiver 44, range of 33 to 43 with a range of 10. He's wide receiver 67 in fantasy points per game, but I think that's a little deceiving because he had a very slow start to the year, and in the last 4 weeks, he's actually had 3 good games and one not so good game. Drake May does tend to spread the ball and find the hot guy, right? We've seen whether it's Pop, whether it's Bourne, whether it's Diggs. Diggs seems to be the most consistent of them. But you're talking about we're wide receiver 4, Pop Douglas. If you're in that spot where you need to put someone in that range, I think he's definitely worth the shot, worth a gamble. Um, you know, Drake May is proving to be an incredibly talented quarterback that's going to get the ball to whoever gets open, and they're going to hopefully make plays. And Pop Douglas can make plays, so I think he's worth a shot at that wide receiver 4 tier.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much of a stud does Drake May look right now? Like, dude is on fire. I feel like I have to bring it up because the Patriots came up. Did you see that Tom Brady interview where he mentioned that he cloned his dog that passed away?
I did.
So he also briefly mentioned that about 23 years ago, he also um, may have donated some of his DNA in North Carolina, and everyone was going nuts because Drake May, 23 years old from North Carolina, on the Patriots, playing as the best quarterback since Tom Brady. Like, all the rumors are flying with that. That is Tom Brady's kid, but
That's
I
great.
thought that interview was crazy.
Unless the mom was a track star, I don't think Drake May got his athletic ability from Tom Brady, but maybe.
Yeah, yeah. But I do want to ask one more question before we continue, just because I'm going to have a non-biased answer, because I feel like I can't ask Topher this. And you were mentioning the Packers earlier. Jordan Love or Caleb Williams? And that can be in
That's
every
that.
aspect.
That's what I'm trying to figure out how we looking at it. I would say Caleb Williams. Jordan Love has so many different weapons around him with the Packers, and sometimes looks like he's a top 5 quarterback. He never looks as bad as Caleb Williams has. So you got I think that you got the floor there, right? But he just doesn't show the upside. I think that Caleb, I think, could be a future 2-3 time MVP of the league. I mean, Caleb's got the talent, and he's young. And what we've already seen him do this year, there's been a few games this year, where you're just like, okay, that's the USC Caleb Williams coming to play, and I think with Ben Johnson, he's just going to continue to grow and get better, and he's got fair share of weapons, building around him as well. And Burden and Loveland are going to only get better. Obviously, we all know how good a Dunze is, and DJ Moore, I don't think he's lost it, but maybe he still has DJ Moore. So even weapons aside, I think Moore, Caleb Williams in almost every category. Even in the rest of this year, I think I take Caleb Williams. Dynasty, I'm taking Caleb Williams. Real life, I'm taking Caleb Williams. So yeah, and it's not that Jordan Love's not good. Do we think Jordan has better weapons than Caleb right now, or overall? Because right now Jordan Love's weapons are not all. He has so many options, but they're pretty beat up. I think, though, healthy, I'd put the Packers receivers, tight end, running back room, over the Bears if they were all healthy, but that they're not. So right now, but then again, Chicago's got a more down, so maybe he still does have it if we're talking this week. What do you think? I mean, you being the Bears fan,
Yeah,
he's
and
got better weapons.
that's completely fair. Better weapons. Yeah, if healthy, I think there's a lot of potential for the Packers. Um, Obviously, I think as of right now, Kraft is better than Komet or a Loveland right now. I don't think maybe in the future, we'll have Loveland is actually going to be the star that the Bears thought he was. I mean, he looks good, but they're just not. They weren't really using him.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think as of right now the Packers, but I think the Bears can easily surpass their weapons in the next year or so. But the question came to mind because I was listening to local radio, and they're immediately saying Caleb Williams is now easily the second best quarterback in the division behind Goff, which extremely biased, but I think it's pretty fair. I'm not fully convinced on Jordan Love, and I have a few Packers friends that aren't fully convinced in him either.
Right.
So I was just wondering what on an unbiased take.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question, and it's a good one. Good debate to have. I wouldn't say easily, but I would put Caleb Williams, QB2. But the fact that Goff's QB1 is just such an incredible and fun story.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go with Caleb Williams is the best, and I'm running away with it. I'll let Topher know when he comes back, and we're good.
Yeah, Topher's gonna be mad at me. Great.
All right, so my next guy that I'm going with is Sean Tucker, listed at RB40. His range is only 6, actually. He's 35 to 41. And his last couple games, he finally saw his snap count raise to at least 20%. Now, it was significantly lower than that most of the other weeks. But the one thing I really want to point out is that last week he rushed for 53 yards for New England. Now, doesn't sound like much. It was his season high. Fantastic. But most notable, it was the most by any running back against New England this year. He's currently the only running back to run for more than 50 yards versus them. I mentioned New England's rush defense last week. Before this, actually, no, including that past week, the leading rusher against them this year is Josh Allen. And I think he had about 58 rushing yards. Their rush defense has been phenomenal. Now, Sean Tucker's facing Buffalo next. Buffalo's actually allowing the third most rushing yards this year. And that's really including getting embarrassed last week by your Miami Dolphins and Achane last week. Achane looked crazy good. 174 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 51 receiving yards. Dude was a stud last week. Now,
he's a stud every week, but go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. I do love me some Achane. I mean, no offense, I just wish he was on a better team, but he's
about all we got, so let's just enjoy him.
Yeah, definitely.
Him and Waddle.
Yeah, and I thought Waddle might have been gone at the trade deadline, and it was going to be only Achane left. But you know what? They're holding on to him. They think they're going to do something soonish, I think. But with Achane out there, they look good. But back to Tucker, he could be losing his snap share soon-ish, maybe. Now, Bucky Irving can come back at any point. Hasn't played since week 4. Oh, that is adorable.
They were the stars of my first appearance, so I thought I'd let them say hi. They were just a couple days old, and the first time I was on this show with Topher, now they're 4.5 weeks old, little German Shepherds.
That is awesome. That coat looks amazing.
Yeah, they're good.
So
sorry, I keep distracting off Sean Tucker.
No, you're absolutely fine. There is not a whole lot after this about Sean Tucker anyway. Bucky Irving can come back at any point. So Sean Tucker's snap count of 20% this last week could potentially go even lower. But the thing is, Irving hasn't really played since week 4. He's got multiple injuries going on. He's come off the IR, but he still hasn't played. And once again, limited in practice today. Now, Bucky Irving, stud, absolute stud. He's playing. He's going to look good. But that's the problem is, when is he going to play? So right now, Sean Tucker, even though he's looking a little better, he's getting a little bit of more of a snap share. After this week, that's probably just going to completely end, unfortunately.
No, I agree. I think you got to watch if Bucky is playing. He's probably starting. They're not probably playing Bucky unless he's getting ready to get the load. So if Bucky plays, I think you pay Tucker this week. If Bucky doesn't, I agree with you. I think he's a good, because again, we're talking to your running back 4 tier. This is the guys that you're trying to figure out who I'm playing, do the bye weeks and injuries. And he fits right in as long as Bucky doesn't play.
Right.
Bucky plays, I could be giving you bad advice, but I think you avoid him. So, my wide receiver 5 tier, This one's fun. Jalen Lane, wide receiver 60. The range 19, another big range, 47 to 66. He's wide receiver 107 in fantasy points per game, but I don't think that's really relevant. Why? Because he hasn't really been on the field until recently as a wide receiver option. But even when he's on the field, he had a long touchdown, last week. So he's going against Miami. And it's so hard to tell you what to do against Miami because you got two versions. They're Jekyll and Hyde. The two of the last 3 games, they look like one of the best defenses in football. And then the middle of that, they let Lamar Jackson throw 4 touchdown passes on them. So, it's hard to know. I mean, I think we're more likely going to see the Miami we've seen 2 of the last 3 weeks against the Commanders, which means Jalen Lane might be a fade. But, he's a Hail Mary throw. You're in wide receiver 5 territory anyway. In addition to that, if your league allows return yardage, he is their main returner. So just for that alone, he might be worth a play now that he's getting on the field a little bit more.
Yeah, I like it. And I think we talked about him a few weeks back. And yeah, when he's getting looks, he's getting some pretty big plays. But yeah, as long as he can keep getting as long as he can keep getting some playing time, yeah, I like him as maybe like a Holden Dynasty kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
But I do like that. So now, if you listen to any other week, you'll know once I get to this point with the RB5 tier, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes we get guys that aren't playing. Sometimes we get guys that are injured that are coming back. So I usually kind of gravitate towards who you should watch out for, what you should try to avoid. And someone that was actually in this tier is J.K. Dobbins. Now, they have him listed as RB51 with a range of 28. Now, here's the problem. He's hurt. They have him set there probably because they're expecting to, if play, it's going to be minimal, but it's probably not going to be any playing time for him this week. I love Dobbins. You see any of my articles that I've written for Fantasy Now Plus, and I usually do an underdog article once a week, and if I got Denver on the slate, I'm usually putting J.K. Dobbins rushing yards on the higher end there because he is consistent. Half of his games, he's had at least 14 points. He's had at least 60 rushing yards every game this year, except for week six, ironically, versus the Jets, where he had 40. But he has this foot injury, and Denver's considering putting him on the IR. Now, they play Kansas City this week, and then they have a bye week. I don't know if they're going to wait on that decision to see how he feels after the bye week, but that could just mean it's RJ Harvey season. If it's a serious injury, you mentioned Harvey earlier with, being 4th, I believe, on the rookie running back rankings. Harvey this week is actually listed as RB25. He's got a small range of 7. He's had a few solid weeks as a backup. Now, I'm going with he's probably starting this week. If you're considering IR for your starting running back, he's probably not playing. I mean, unless there's some miracle that happens. But RJ Harvey's most likely going to be starting. They're facing KC. Now, KC's been pretty solid versus the run to pass through games, only allowing just over 75 rushing yards. And that's with allowing 141 rushing yards to the Bills 2 weeks ago. Like, even with that high number, they're still allowing such a small amount. But the thing is, they're kind of a different team if they're playing at home versus if they're on the road. They're allowing a difference of 23 more rushing yards on the road. And this week, they're on the road. Now, this is going to be, I think, probably the week where to see what the rookie has. Now, if he can do anything against KC, I think that is a plus sign for him. Like, I like RJ Harvey. I think that I thought he was going to get a little bit more playing time than he has been, but with J.K. Dobbins being so consistent, RJ Harvey just hasn't had the opportunities that I thought he would. But this could be his week.
No, I agree. I mean, and the probably most consistent thing about J.K. Dobbins is he's inevitably going to get injured, and so here we are. He's great till he gets hurt, and then someone else takes his job. So, I mean, Harvey, here's your chance. I mean, you had to wait till he got hurt. Took longer than most years, but we got to enjoy JK a little bit longer. So, I anticipate he's going on the IR, and we're going to see the Harvey show as well. I hope that he doesn't, and I hope that they are waiting and he can come back after the bye, because J.K. Dobbins is extremely talented and fun to watch. I'm an Ohio State fan, so as an Ohio State fan, seeing his pro career and all the injuries, but yet when he does play, it's been very rewarding that he's actually been able to stay on the field and put up the numbers this year. Like I said, unfortunately, he just cannot beat the injury bug. So I'm really hopeful that it's 1 week, take the bye, and he's ready to come back. But I don't believe that's going to be the case because it's just his luck. He just can't stay healthy. So, and like I said, Harvey time. Let's do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, he does get hurt quite a bit, and unfortunately, it happened again this year. But yeah, I'm here to see if I'm here to hear the Harvey show. So let's hope that that he gets his chance this week and he takes advantage of it.
Yeah.
So that concludes this week. Brian, thanks again for jumping on. Really appreciate it. Thank you for showing off the dogs again. They dude, puppies are the best. I don't know what else to say about that, but puppies are great.
They are. Yeah, we have a white German Shepherd mom and a bicolored dad, and every one of the litter came out bicolor. It's kind of funny how that works out sometimes. So, some of them might wind up being like red, and because you can't really tell the full color yet. But for the most part, they're all either black and tan or bicolor. So, kind of funny how that works out. But they're a lot of fun. We all gave them nicknames. They all got the I guess kind of the Halloween theme nicknames. So like the good boys are named Chucky, Jason, Freddie, Michael, Dexter. We named the girls, I think, Sabrina, Wednesday. What was the last one? Harley Quinn. Thank you. Yeah. So those a lot of fun. We enjoy it, and they're going to be hopefully finding their new homes in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Awesome. Good luck.
Thanks.
But thanks again, everyone, for jumping on. Thanks for the questions. Don't forget to sign up on Underdog with promo code FN+. Your first $5 play gets you 100 bonus funds. Join the Discord. Have some conversations with us. You can find me on X and Blue Sky at MPFlores90. Brian, where can we find you?
I'm on X at DanMan2133 and Blue Sky at Brian Miracle at FantasyNowPlus.com. So, and also hit the subscribe to our YouTube page if you don't mind. We appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us, join the Discord, do all those fun things. Fantasy football is always happening, and we'll make sure we keep talking about it. So we'll see you guys. Topher should be back next week, so that way you get a little bit more of the Jordan Love hate with his face on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure he gets all that. But Brian, thanks again, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.